Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and this is my husband Drew, and on this channel we talk about life and relationships after leaving the church and do commentary on the goings-on in evangelical Christianity. By the way guys, this video is sponsored by Surfshark and we'll talk more about them later in the video.
There are some goings-on today.
There are some goings-on today. We're actually going to be reacting to a Girls Gone Bible video. If you guys haven't watched my previous video on Girls Gone Bible, I highly recommend that you check that out because I do a little mini deep dive on who they are, so that'd probably be helpful for this video. But today we're actually reacting to an interview that they did on the George Janko show, and I'll give you guys a brief background on who George Janko is because some of you might not know. Drew,
I actually have no idea who he is.
So George Janko actually started out on Vine. He was a Viner.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and he got pretty popular on that platform. And then he started co-hosting Impulsive with Logan Paul. He was a regular co-host on that channel. From what I understand, there was some controversy on that podcast between George Janko and Logan Paul. I think that they had a lot of disagreements about religion. And there was a particular episode back in 2020 where Logan asked George a hypothetical question about Hitler and whether or not he'd kill Hitler if he came back to life. And he gave a very scary answer to that, and I'm just gonna read what he said.
Didn't expect this going into the video.
I know. We're starting out with Hitler. Starting out strong, guys. Hitler, at the end of the day, was such a powerful speaker, so motivating and so strong in this situation. When I look at this man, or anybody like this man, I don't just look at his flesh. There's demons behind him, and I'm not trying to cast him out. I'm trying to kill the situation that's making him evil. So ultimately, he said that no, if Hitler came back to life, he would not kill him because
he was a great speaker, and demons are really to blame.
It wasn't actually Hitler that was bad. It was the demons that were in him.
That's mind-numbingly stupid.
Yeah. In 2023, George Janko left the Impulsive podcast, and I can't really figure out if he was fired, if Logan fired him from it, or if he left of his own accord.
If the demons fired him or not.
Okay. Exactly. I couldn't figure that out, and honestly, I do not care enough to actually research into that. But he ended up leaving, and then he started his own show called The George Janko Show.
Okay.
It's hasn't been around for that long, and he's had people like Andrew Tate on his channel, and actually he did several different, like, multiple part episodes interviewing Andrew Tate, and that's really when his podcast really skyrocketed. Because before that he was kind of doing okay. He wasn't getting the best views, definitely not Impulsive level views. And then after his Andrew Tate interviews, which his first interview got 12 million views, then his podcast started doing better.
So we're talking about kind of a Christian-y manosphere guy.
Definitely manosphere, definitely conservative, because he's also interviewed Candace Owens, and he's interviewed Girls Gone Bible, which is the one that we're going to react to today.
Staggering intellects on this podcast.
And most recently, he's interviewed Jordan Peterson, of course.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah, that's the type of thing that we're dealing with. Just to give a disclaimer, we're not reacting to the entire episode because it's like an hour and a half long. We're only going to be reacting to about 20 minutes of it. So just so you guys know that. Before we continue, I want to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. It's really important to foster safety in your relationships, but in this day and age, it's also important to protect your safety when you're online. Surfshark is a virtual private network that protects your online identity and safeguards the information sent from your device and the internet, which prevents large companies and data brokers from using your private info. It also protects you while using public Wi-Fi, which can be a gold mine for hackers. Surfshark also allows you to change the location of your device, giving you access to content libraries and streaming services from anywhere in the world. They actually have over 3,200 servers in 100 different countries. Most of you guys know that both Drew and I are very much into sci-fi, and one of my all-time favorite sci-fi shows is Stargate SG-1. Stargate is actually only accessible on Netflix in the US, but with Surfshark, if I happen to be out of the country, I know I still have access to this show by simply changing my device's location. You can get an exclusive Surfshark deal. Just use my code ANTIBOT and get 3 extra months free. Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's really no risk to try it out. Check out my link in the description box below or in the pinned comment in the comment section. Thank you so much, Surfshark. Now back to the video. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in here.
What does a man need to do to get you guys to notice him? You see videos of men, they need to grind, and you got to be the leader of the house, and you gotta, I don't know, the way they talk is just so aggressive. Like you need to kill an alligator with your hands and just be able to rip its blood at any time. Like, it's just so much. And to me, it's just like, as long as I love and provide, I feel like
we like that.
I feel like
I would love a guy to rip an alligator's head.
So no. Let's talk about it. Like, what is in your guys' eyes, right? Like, say, what I want to do is I want to put it in your guys' court. I'm tired of hearing men what women want. I want to hear what women want from men. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like that's generally good. I think it's good that he's asking women what they actually want. However, I don't think that they give a good representation of what most women want, and we'll see that as we continue watching.
Like, listen, I'm off the market, but if I was not on the market, I would not be listening to some dudes that are like, you know what I mean?
This is what women want. Like, let women tell you what they want.
I feel like you want to go to the I don't know. I don't go to a cow to ask them how eggs are. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, to me, it's a different dairy product.
We can speak biblically, we can speak spiritually, and we can speak practically.
Just talk real, like you guys, like how you guys are.
So this kind of confused me because I've seen this, obviously, before. And they're saying we can give you an answer biblically or we can give you an answer practically. And I'm confused because these women believe that the Bible is the ultimate authority. They believe that it speaks on all matters of life.
Yeah.
And so why would what the Bible says differ from what you should practically do? Shouldn't those be the same things if that's what you believe?
Right. Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't know how these people's brains work, so I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, this is just the first confusing thing in a long string of very confusing things.
This is all we want, right?
We're very simple.
Very simple. We want a man who acts like a man, who's manly, who takes care of things.
Leader.
I don't need you to kill an alligator with your hands, but I need to feel so feminine around you because you are so masculine that I can turn my brain off because I know you've got it.
Yeah.
I trust you. I trust your intellect. I trust your character. I trust that I can close my eyes and follow you blindly, and I'm going to be happy about where I end up. That's what it's about. We go out. I don't have to use my brain. I don't have to think. You know what I mean? Order the whole thing for us. Take me, plan the thing. Say you tell me where we're going, and we're all set. That's honestly, it's so lost on us. And like,
isn't that completely insane?
It's so simple. Masculinity is everything good and great and wonderful, and femininity is everything submissive and inferior.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what I'm getting.
I wrote down, I think we should talk about how she characterizes masculinity and femininity.
Yeah.
I wrote down some of the things that she said. She says masculinity is taking care of things, being a leader, ordering food for your girlfriend, planning everything, and making all the decisions. And then femininity is turning your brain off, following someone else's lead, closing your eyes and following blindly, and not having to think. That's what she says masculinity and femininity are.
This doesn't sound any different than the guys who are giving horrible advice on these stupid baby podcasts.
Definitely, maybe worse. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely giving just pearly things.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think one of the problems here, though, is that just pearly things, like, obviously does not care about what she's saying. She doesn't believe what she's saying. She's just saying whatever toes the party line that idiots are saying to get views at the moment. These girls actually believe this.
Yeah, I do think that they're genuine. I do think that they genuinely believe this.
Yeah.
That is true.
I
That's
mean,
the difference there.
How Proverbs 31 woman is it to be like, I just want to be able to turn my brain off? No, I'm
Yeah.
not going to buy and sell land. I'm not going to haggle. I'm not going to run business. I'm not going to like take care of my family and be a provider
Yeah.
or leader of any kind. I just want to be a child because that's what
Yeah.
femininity demands of me.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how she would reconcile those verses to her idea of what a relationship should be.
Yeah.
And I also find it interesting because Girls Gone Bible on their podcast, they actually just recently had a crossover episode with Ashley Hetherington. And Ashley Hetherington is all about the
Right.
Proverbs 31
Mhm.
girly and being a leader and being
Yeah.
a boss babe and whatever.
Yeah.
So I find that very interesting. But also the type of a relationship that they're describing here, to me, that does not sound like a relationship between two adults.
No,
That
no.
sounds like a relationship that a parent would have with a child, like a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Like you're having to tell that child what to do, make all the decisions for them because they don't know how to make any decisions for themselves yet.
Yeah.
It either sounds like that or it sounds like a sub-dom kink.
If it's a kink thing and you are keeping it in the
Realm of kink.
realm of kink, then it maybe makes sense because you can step outside of that role and
Yeah.
be like, this is what needs to be done. Are you making decisions about your mortgage or how to raise your kids? You're not doing that within the kink thing, right? If you're going out to dinner on a date, okay, sure. But when you're making real life decisions, you're outside of that. So that's a very different
Yeah.
thing than what they're talking about.
And I also just fundamentally do not understand why that's desirable. Because for me, I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with someone where whenever I'm around them, I just turn my brain off and don't think and just let them do and
Yeah.
guide me everywhere.
Right.
I want somebody who's actually going to challenge me, who gets me to think, who encourages me to use my brain and take initiative.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what I would want in a relationship. And I think that's what a healthy relationship is.
Right.
So it's just the idea of actually wanting that is so beyond me.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Growing up in the very conservative evangelical church, I knew a lot of guys who were a lot more masculine than me. They were big and beefy and they liked sports and, we didn't drink beer, but they would have been beer drinking good old boys. But they were also terrible leaders. The youth leader would not put them in charge of any of the other teenagers in youth group. And I was a lot more feminine than them, and I would often be in leadership roles. Being masculine and big and physically strong does not correlate very well with being a good leader.
Yeah.
Being tall and having a lot of muscle does command respect because people are afraid you're going to physically hurt them.
Yeah.
But that's all. I mean, you can be feminine or masculine and, anywhere on that spectrum and be a fantastic or a horrible leader. I don't understand why femininity or masculinity has to do with being a good leader or smart or something. That makes no sense.
I think that people see those with masculine traits as inherently better leaders because that's like a socially constructed thing.
It's a socially constructed thing by men
in our society.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually mean that person's a good leader.
Right.
Doesn't matter. You can be masculine or feminine or somewhere in between. That doesn't matter to be a good leader.
Right.
Yes, toxic masculinity, that's not good, but
but what you just described is kind of toxic masculinity. That's kind of what that is.
If a man is both masculine and a good leader and someone that you can trust, and even you could turn your brain off around him and still trust him, like that's good and that's not toxic. But if the roles are such that you have to turn your brain off and you have to get outside of the decisions, then that's definitely toxic, right?
Yeah.
But we need masculinity. It's really important, and that's what we try to push. And we live in a time of, unfortunate new age feminism and this whole idea that women and men need to be the same and they need to compete, and it's all from the enemy. It's all lies. None of it is good for us.
So you don't want to be equal?
We're equal in God's eye. We're equal in value. We're different in role and in the way that we operate.
So she's saying that the feminine role is to sit and do nothing and just not use your brain, not think, just let a man dictate everything you do.
Yeah.
Because that's what she just described as being feminine. So is that what she's saying the different roles of men and women are?
It sounds like it. And I mean, she's saying that New Age feminism, I don't know what New Age feminism is. New Age and feminism are two different things.
Yeah.
She's saying that evil force from the enemy is teaching that men and women should be equal. But when asked if they're to be equal, she's like, well, we're equal in value, but our roles are different. So we're equal in the eyes of God. However, we are not allowed to have equal social opportunity and take up the same amount of social space.
In any type of way that we can actually demonstrate, in any measurable way, in any tangible way, we're different.
That's a good way of putting it.
I feel like, because we hear this all the time from conservative Christians, that they're equal, but they just have different roles. But I feel like a lot of the time we hear that a woman's role is to be like a homemaker, and then a man's role is to be the provider.
Yeah.
But here they're not even saying that. They're not even saying that. Here they're saying a woman's role is to not do anything. Yeah. And a man's role is to make all the decisions. I feel like what I'm hearing from them is worse than anything I've heard from like Paul and Morgan Girl Defined or Nate and Sutton, the typical like fundamentalist people that we like to react to. Like what these people are talking about is even worse.
And they're way more popular than those guys.
This video has like 700,000 views.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah.
Wow, people really like garbage content.
I know.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. My bad. Not
No, that's good. That was a good
You're
question.
valued a little bit less.
Can I just say on what you said? I think, because I think that's beautiful, and I think yes, I agree with you, and that's what I feel with George.
Yeah.
But I'll get fuck up an alligator though, don't worry.
And to point that out, because he's always like when I'm with him, I feel so safe and feel so like careless. So like I'm with him like da 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 da, and he was like, dude, you worry me. Like, are you? Like, you know, if I'm like being like, oh, I'm clumsy in general, but if I'm being clumsy or sometimes like, I don't know, you know, you're just with him so you feel safe, so you're not really like thinking much because you're just like, I'm like, I know we're good. And I'm like, don't worry. Like when I'm by myself, I'm very aware of everything that's going on around me. But when I'm with you, I'm not like, okay, this person's there and this person's here and this person's there because I'm with you. But when I'm by myself, I'm like super like, okay, like paranoid, you know?
Yeah, Shauna.
I am kind of getting the feeling that these women don't have the words to describe the feeling of being safe with a man without equating that to being inferior and subordinate to a man. They don't even have the language to express safety.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
That's terrifying. Obviously,
that is very terrifying.
Like, who teaches you that? Men. Insecure, weak men who don't know how to actually win a person over and provide value without brainwashing you.
It's like, because you need me to be safe, and because you need me to be physically safe, that means that you are inferior to me.
Yeah, I just really think that this is a product of a scam that men have been running for thousands of years. Is, you know, you convince women that they need you for physical safety, and maybe once upon a time that might have been true, but at this point that's not true. You're more likely to be physically hurt by a man that's living with you, that has any relationship to you, than a stranger.
Right.
That will always be the case. That's statistically the case. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a scam to say, I'm going to provide you protection, and in return, you are going to submit to me and be my servant. Yeah. Because the woman's not actually getting anything out of that.
Yeah.
The man's getting everything out of that. And the woman has to pretend, or maybe she's really convinced, that she's actually getting something out of this useless man.
No, that is definitely true. And we'll kind of circle back to this conversation because they talk more about the safety aspect. Because I think it is a scam, but I also think it's a male fantasy. And so we'll talk about it more.
Yeah.
I love that so much. You're absolutely right. Because Ari and I talk about this all the time, how as women, like, it's important to be able to tap into your masculinity. It's really important because that's like the dominant, like organized, aware, like heightened version of yourself. Whereas being feminine is like being more relaxed.
Okay, so I find this really interesting because they definitely uphold gender essentialism. And we saw that earlier on, they were talking about how they want their men to be masculine. So they definitely have this idea that people that are assigned male at birth need to fulfill the social role of being a man.
And this very specific social role that they have
and
invented.
Then people that are assigned female at birth need to fulfill that social role. So they definitely believe that.
Yeah.
But then what they're saying here is that women can tap into masculinity. So they're almost admitting that it's possible to have both masculine and feminine traits.
Yeah.
Which is something that I feel like is contradictory.
Yeah, it does sound contradictory, but at the same time, like we were saying earlier, they are defining masculinity as basically everything
being
that's
good. Yeah.
Like you're good at working, you're good at organizing, you're good at I don't know that was really a thing that was a part of the gender binary. I don't know that being organized was man.
Yeah.
And being disorganized was somehow feminine.
Yeah, I
don't get that.
That was the other thing I was going to point out, and I actually wrote down. Notice how masculinity is synonymous with being dominant, organized, and more aware, and that it's a heightened version of yourself. Which to me, when I hear somebody say, this is a heightened version of yourself, I think that's a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
And earlier they were saying, oh no, men and women are equal in value. But clearly from everything you're saying so far, you definitely think that men have more value or at least are more useful than women.
This just sounds like you have been consuming a bunch of bullshit YouTube shorts talking about how if you tap into your true masculinity and boost your testosterone, then you'll be ultra productive at work and get a raise and like all this stuff. The idea that being masculine is being more organized is super weird to me.
Yeah, because I feel like that's like stereotypically a feminine trait.
Like the people I knew growing up who were really organized and had things together, like the church secretary, you couldn't be a man and be the church secretary, but the church secretary was the one that had the ball rolling and and was like telling the preacher, okay, like you're going to be preaching this week and then he's going to be preaching next week and we're going to balance the budget this way and this person's coming in to talk to you at this time. Mm-hmm. The secretary is a female role, and that's primarily, and also you are way more organized than I am, and you're still more feminine than I am. I don't get it. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. I think it seems like they just really want to say being a man is better.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I say it all the time that like I have to be, when you have a job as a woman, when you have a career or like especially you're self-employed or you have things to do, you got to be a little you have to be dominant. Mm-hmm. So if I have to be dominant in like all these areas of my life, for the love of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I want to come home and I want to turn it off. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
She's at the front door as man's wearing an apron. Honey,
please
come here. Smell these muffins I made.
I know it's so, but you know.
Do you like these new Croc boots I got? Like, but that also,
I don't know if I necessarily agree that women have to be more dominant in the workplace. I don't know if I would use that word. I think that women face more challenges than men do in the workplace, but I don't know, like dominant. I don't know if I would say that. But also, men have to go into work and be dominant too. So why aren't they also getting a break? Or why is it not acceptable for them to come home and kind of play a more submissive role?
This seems like a version of patriarchy that just doesn't work for anybody. Like the man never gets a break and the woman never gets any kind of power or advocacy for herself. This hurts everybody involved. Like, let people decide their own roles.
Yeah. I mean, to her point, I do think that women have more challenges at work. They have to deal with things like sexism and misogyny in the workplace that men usually don't have to deal with.
Yeah.
So I'll give her that. But I think how to fix that problem is not by having a man take care of everything when you're at home. That's almost like fighting the problem with the problem.
Yeah.
You're fighting sexism and misogyny with more sexism and misogyny.
Yeah.
The way to fix that is to fix sexism and misogyny in the workplace, just to get men to not do that.
Yeah. It's like, I have to work so hard at work because men don't take me seriously because I'm a woman. I just want to be able to go somewhere where it's assumed that the man's not going to take me seriously and I don't have to be taken seriously. It's like, fix the man's mindset.
Yeah,
fix,
exactly.
Fix
Thank
what
you.
the man is thinking.
It comes with when you guys submit, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If women don't want to submit, we can't be the leader,
Yes.
right? Because I'm not going to pin you down and be like, submit. Like, you know, like, it has to be willing. She was willingly ready to submit to me. Like, when we're out in public, I'll talk about this. If I say, hey, be quiet, turn around, get in the car, we've already discussed that, hey, if I tell you this means we're in danger. I need you to shut your mouth, start looking around, grab your shit, get in the car, we're leaving.
Yeah.
Because we might have eyes on us that somebody's going to rob us in LA or something's happening. But if I said, hey, be quiet, get in the car right now, she's like, don't ever tell me to be quiet. Don't tell me to be quiet. I am not my father. You're not my father. And I'm like, all right, bitch, get shot then and robbed. I'm going to be in the car. You know what I mean?
His language here is so scary to me. So scary.
Yeah. Hey, George, how many times has that happened? Versus how many times have you fantasized about that happening where you came out being really big and strong because you saved the little lady from the big scary bad guy. It's never fucking happened, you dumbass.
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out here is I think that this is a fantasy that a lot of men have, that they're going to be robbed at gunpoint and they're going to have to fight off their attackers in order to protect women. But like you pointed out earlier, typically women experience violent crimes from people they're related to, either their father or their boyfriend, significant other.
Yeah, it's usually a man they're in a close relationship.
When it happens.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's not possible to experience violence from a stranger, especially in LA. I'm sure that that's a little bit more common. But the idea that he needs to protect her at the mall and when they're going out, he needs to be like surveying and extra vigilant, like, that's not gonna happen. Like, that's way overboard.
Right. And I mean, women have eyes, women have ears, women have typically actually much sharper senses than men. Mm-hmm. And most of the time even in this scenario, even entering into your fantasy, being a man does not help you. If anything, it might be like a 0.5% statistical disadvantage as compared to a woman. Like, this doesn't make sense. Women can detect threats too and tell you to get your ass in the car.
And
what?
His girlfriend earlier was talking about how when she's by herself, she's always has her eyes peeled for anything that might be amiss. So clearly she can detect anything like that too. So
this is just an excuse for him to feel superior. This is a hypothetical scenario where that he has invented, and he gets to go around telling other people that he is superior to his girlfriend. That's what this is. There's nothing else to it.
The other thing I wanted to point out here is that let's say that they are out somewhere together and there is some people that look like maybe they're going to rob them. Does he have to use such aggressive language towards his girlfriend in that situation? If you're able to speak to her and communicate something to her, can't you just say, hey, those two people over there kind of look sketchy, like, let's get out of here quickly, rather than being like, shut up, get in the car, we're going. Like, why do you have to say it that aggressively? Yeah. And I think that goes back to, this isn't about something that's happening in reality. This isn't about reality. This is about his fantasy, like you said, of being superior and being the one that's in charge and dominating the situation.
Right, exactly.
Like, you want to act like this? Go ahead, get it.
Yeah.
But you know what she does? She goes, okay, and she grabs, because the first thing she thinks when she sees me say this is, okay, he provides for me in every single possible way, right? He provides financially, spiritually, loving. Okay, I did all this and I earned her respect.
Right.
Now she submits to me. A lot of men don't want to provide these things, and they're just expecting their women to submit for no reason. Listen, if you're ready to split the bill with your chick that you asked on a date, don't ask her to submit to you, bro. You guys are now equal. She's paying for half the bill.
And I feel like
But I thought earlier they said that they are equal in value. Now you're saying that they're not equal?
This is not. It doesn't make sense. You can't make it make sense. This is all about a power fantasy for men, and we're seeing 3 women who are complicit and are willing to go along with the power fantasy that this man is masturbating in. Right?
I feel like people are expecting, they want the end result without like all the work that comes with beforehand. You know what I mean? They expect that end result of like, you have my trust and all that stuff, and we have this understanding, without having those hard conversations, without like putting in the work and everything he did to build up our relationship.
She just reminded me of something I wanted to talk to you guys.
Okay, so he said you're providing for her financially, you know, you're taking care of her like physically, and you're providing for her spiritually, which could literally mean anything.
Yeah.
And then also loving. When you are power tripping off of a fantasy where you're calling your girlfriend a bitch on a really popular podcast, and this is like really fun for you, and you're talking about how she must submit to you, this doesn't sound like you're being emotionally supportive.
Right.
This sounds like you are treating her like a child.
Yeah.
And expecting her to act like that, and not allowing her to act like more than that, and also be with you.
And what exactly is he providing her that isn't just basic relationship stuff? Because love, obviously you should provide love and support. So should she.
Yeah.
Spiritually, like you said, that could literally mean anything. And again, she could provide things for you spiritually as well.
Yeah.
Financially, maybe he has a point, but she's on his podcast right now.
Yeah.
She is co-hosting his podcast and is part of his business and is financially contributing in some type of way.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just be like, well, this is my podcast if she's also on it.
Yeah.
That would be like me saying that I completely do this channel 100% myself, and that you don't have any financial contribution to it at all when you're a regular co-host on it.
And the same with me. I mean, like, sometimes people don't even know that you wrote several of my early episodes with my channel. You have planned out, I would actually say, most videos I have ever made. You have had some role in the planning. You are the number one person I turn to when I'm talking about marketing stuff, when I'm talking about thumbnails, when I'm making plans for different video ideas. You still do contribute and write and plan for tons of stuff on my channel. It doesn't make sense to not give you credit for that, or act like I'm, you know, always just completely so in charge and you're just like there along for the ride.
Right.
You guys are so cute.
Talking about a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, you guys.
You guys are seeing us and I want to apologize to you guys.
I love it. Honestly, I feel so comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Can you give me a sip of that?
I know. Now I'm ready.
No, we have extra. We have so many.
We share everything.
But I actually want to tie into what you just said. The one thing that we did in this relationship, because I knew it was going to last, is I set my boundaries right from the jump. Mm-hmm. I go, if you walk unaccordingly to God, you be so fast outside, you have no idea. Mm-hmm. Like, I will never love you as much as my God. And this is what comes with how I act. If you want this type of man, then you could be here. The man who's going to provide, that's going to love you, that's going to be there for you. But also, don't give me attitude, and don't ever try to check me with authority. I'm not trying to discuss leadership here. It's either you're coming or you're being left behind. There is no conversation about this. And there was never one she was like...
So you're a dictator.
Yeah. Yeah. And earlier he was talking about, or all of them were talking about, how a man earns a woman's submission. He shows that he is worthy of that. But if you're establishing at the very beginning of your relationship that he is going to be the authority figure and he is going to be the leader,
and there will be no discussion from that point on,
and there's going to be no discussion, how has there been enough time for him to prove that to you?
Yes.
So, like, this doesn't make any sense at all. You cannot have it both ways. You can't say that a man earns a woman's submission, but then also say at the very beginning of our relationship, this is how it's expected to be. You can't have those two things at the same time. And this sounds like a dictatorship, but I'm a nice dictator.
But it's a benevolent dictatorship, the best form of government.
In a good way.
Oh my God, how dare you? No, why? Because she was like, no, I'll sign up for that. That makes sense. I want a man that I know I'm protected by. I know that loves me. I know that, oh God, he fears God, so he's not going to go and mess around with another chick behind my back.
That's right.
So
you should not go and mess around with another chick behind her back because you love and respect your girlfriend, not because you're afraid of what some God's going to do to you.
Yeah, and you can also, like, you can love and fear God, and you can be loving, and you can protect the person that you're with and not be a dictator.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. Well, okay, I don't do the God part. I feel like I do all of those things, and you also do all of those things. And neither one of us have ever been a dictator. Like,
No.
for us, it really matters on what we're doing, who's taking the lead on
Yeah.
things. And sometimes a leadership role doesn't even really make sense in the context.
Yeah, it depends on, because we both have different areas that we're a little bit, to use some Christian terms, more gifted at.
Yeah.
And so in that area, I'm better at organization, so I'll usually take the lead on that, and you're better with
The feelings.
Yeah, emotional stuff, and you take the lead on that. We just, wherever we are best suited is what we lead in.
Yeah, and I think that works regardless of what your kind of ideological bent is. You can be left, right, Christian, atheist, whatever, and I think that just works. Like, it works for our parents.
Yeah.
And our parents are the same way. It works for them.
But then also when it comes to making big decisions about our life, it's we're making decisions mutually.
Yeah.
There isn't one that's like, oh, well, we're going to do this. We come to an agreement.
Right.
Choose what is okay with you and establish that in the beginning of your relationship. Do not fall in love with potential. Fall in love with patterns.
You don't have to be with somebody if you don't like them. If you don't want to submit to them because you don't trust where they're taking you, or you don't like these things about them, then that's not your man. Yeah. If you're not fully in submission to him and the way that he lives his life, it's because he's not for you. Yeah. And two, submission, like biblical submission, is a two-way street.
No, because men are superior to women. They're smarter. They're more organized. They're more dominant. They deserve leadership, and women are lazy and unintelligent and kind of just go with the flow. So no, you can't just choose. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense.
If women are not capable of choosing as well as a man who is superior, then the woman's choice, then the woman's choice to be with a man or not ultimately does not matter as much as the man's choice. I want to be with you, or more like, I want to own you. So I don't care what you want. The man leads. The man is in charge. So you have to be with me, which is historically how patriarchy has worked.
Yeah.
And we're just now starting to use this language that she's using because feminism has been a somewhat powerful force for the last maybe 100 years. I mean, if we're talking about suffragettes, that's how long ago. Women being able to vote. That's how long ago we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like a watered down version of patriarchy. Like, you're still doing patriarchy. It's just watered down, and you're borrowing from the language of feminists without even really realizing it.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of what they say doesn't really make any sense, because they know that they can't say, oh, well, a man can just decide he wants this particular woman as his wife and just choose her and she has no choice in it. They know that they can't say that.
Yeah.
But they say a watered down version because they're still like really like clutching to this kind of religious ideas of marriage and love and relationships, but at the same time being drawn towards more like feminist talking points about that, because that's how society progresses.
Yeah. What I want to know is, where do they think that this leads? If we're privileging men all the time, then do you think that is going to lead to a society where women have more choice to not submit to men that they don't deem fit to be their leaders? No, of course not. If people are in power, which a lot of people are in power, but if there are more people in power that have this idea that men should be privileged above women, don't you think that we're going to get to the point where women can't get a divorce from their husbands? That's something that a lot of conservative pundits actually say shouldn't be able to happen. Yeah. Like, women shouldn't be able to divorce men. It just should be illegal.
That's kind of where this type of thinking does ultimately get you.
Yeah.
And that's something that Just Pearly thinks, who I feel like they're close to her ideology. That's something that she says, is that women shouldn't be able to, or nobody can just get a divorce.
Yeah. And
there's
then
no exceptions for that.
From there, a woman can't choose whether or not she wants to be in a marriage. It's a man's decision.
Right.
And it's her father's decision. It's the husband's decision. It's not hers. It's not her mom's. It's theirs.
I do want to just point out, just because it just popped in my head, but it's completely unrelated to what they're talking about right now. But in this podcast, not in a part that we're going to be reacting to, but they refer to like the Girls Gone Bible podcast as a ministry. And I am so sick of Christian influencers like them and like Ashley Hetherington referring to what they're doing as a ministry.
Yeah. As people who grew up in ministry.
Yeah. Like, what are you actually doing to help anybody? Having a podcast doesn't make you in ministry. Like, what are you doing for the poor, for the needy?
Your dad flew people from place to place in rural areas where there was no access to medicine so that they could get access to medicine.
Yeah.
He provided critical infrastructure for people's health and safety.
That is ministry.
And he was he's always been real, almost embarrassed levels of humble about not gloating about it, about not even barely calling it a ministry. He'll shyly call it a ministry because he doesn't think he should gloat about it.
Yeah.
What he's doing is fantastic. My grandparents ran homeless shelters and orphanages for kids in Mexico for several decades. We're talking about hundreds or thousands of children. That's a ministry. Yeah, I disagree with a lot of the ways they did it, but that's a ministry. I wouldn't call what you and I are doing a ministry.
No.
And what they're doing
absolutely
is not a ministry.
I'm sorry, but having a podcast and posting pictures on Instagram is not a ministry.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they do personally. Maybe they do some ministry type stuff or charitable works that I'm just not really aware of. But like, a podcast is not a ministry. That's just a really big pet peeve of mine.
Right.
I submit to you willingly because I want to, because I respect you. And then you also earn my submission. You also are, you be the man that is worth submitting to. Yeah.
Serve.
And so I'm just like, it's a two-way thing. I have to submit to you. I have to respect you, even if, because we're all sinners. So every man, no matter how great your man is, he's going to fall sometimes. He's not going to live up to God's standard all the time. And you have to look at him as the head of the household, even during that time. Yeah. And then as a man, you have to.
Okay. So then it's not about him earning your submission.
Yeah.
Then. Because earlier she was saying that he has to earn your submission. Your submission is based off of the trust and respect and his pattern of protecting you and providing for you. That's what you base your submission on. But now she's saying even if he doesn't do those things, you still have to submit to him.
Because that's a man's
Which is
role.
it?
Yeah.
So it's clearly not based off of him earning anything. It's based off of him being a man.
Right.
Make sure that you are doing everything in your power, loving your wife the way that Christ loves the church every single time. Yeah. But it's always a two-way street. It's a willing submission.
It's crazy you say that, because I get up every day and I bust my ass to provide, because I want to make sure that she lives an unbelievable life, and that if she ever made us fruitful with the family or whatever direction we take, but whatever she is, I want to make sure I provide for it, right? That's my job. I got to make sure I provide. But how hard would it be to lead and provide if you don't even have to say words, but if I was like, hey, we're going to do this, and you were like, submitting doesn't mean like, okay, I'll do whatever you say, whatever. She checks me all the time. She goes, hey, yo, what's up with your attitude here? Hey, blah, 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 this and that. That doesn't mean a dictatorship.
Yes.
A leader is a servant.
Mm-hmm.
And
I am still not quite getting this, because the man earns respect from the woman and she decides to submit. And the woman should expect the man to continuously earn that respect. But if he doesn't, she still has to submit. And if he messes up, then she still has to submit. And he can also say that, well, everybody has fallen short. Everybody's a sinner since the fall. And so you still have to respect me. Where's the off-ramp for the woman? There's no off-ramp for the woman. How does it make any sense that you're saying that it's not a dictatorship? This doesn't compute. These things are completely contradictory.
Everything you're describing sounds like a dictatorship.
Yeah. Like, okay, I want to set up a country and there won't be any voting. There actually won't be any kind of representation of the people's interests really whatsoever. But like I'm going to go out on my balcony every day and the people can shout to me like, hey, we need food. And I can be like, man, I really care about my people. So sometimes I'm going to give them food. It's still a dictatorship, even if you're not a dick. It's still a dictatorship because you can be a dick, and there's no checks and balances on your power. You are not describing real checks and balances on your power here. I'm sorry, but you're a pathetic child if this is the relationship you want.
Yeah. I mean, and everything he's saying is so contradictory because he started saying that if he makes a decision, like, how hard would it be for him to be a leader if she was like, ugh, like rolling her eyes at him. But then he also was like, but she does check me all the time on stuff I do. So I'm like, are you saying it is okay for her to check you on something or not? Because this is, you literally just contradicted yourself.
Right. He's equating her checking him with her just giving sass, right?
Yeah.
But then he's saying also, I can be checked. This doesn't compute at all.
It doesn't make no sense whatsoever.
An alpha, which all these dudes are like saying, I'm an alpha male, is at the end of the pact.
Yeah.
And he lets the younger, the sick, and the old dictate how fast they're moving.
Mm-hmm.
So are you equating your girlfriend, a full-grown adult, a full-grown woman, very capable, to being sick, a child, or like geriatric? Are you like... Is that what you're comparing her to?
I'm about to have an aneurysm. I can't believe that people who genuinely use the word alpha unironically to describe what they strive to be in life have any sort of platform where they are respected in any way.
Yeah.
And this is... Like, are you 12? Oh, yeah, I'm an alpha. That means I don't have to do my geometry homework today, teacher, actually. Like, come on. Like, if you're a grown adult who's actually thought about these things, you realize the whole alpha thing is just this arbitrary thing that a bunch of stupid influencer guys made up so that they could push a bunch of things to insecure men, mostly boys.
Yeah.
And make a bunch of money off of boys who don't have things figured out because they're young or really, really insecure.
It's astrology for men.
Yeah, yes, it's astrology for men.
Well, I'm going to check my horoscope. Looks like I'm going to be an alpha today.
I'm going to really have to sigma this problem.
He's serving the crew. He's not telling them exactly what's going on from A to Z. I serve God and I serve her. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be really, really hard to serve her if I feel with her spirit that she doesn't believe I'm worth serving. Mm-hmm. If she doesn't see me as a leader, mm-hmm. I can't fight her on that, because then now if I see the woman that I love question where I'm going, I'm going to question where I'm going. Mm-hmm. I'm like, because she loves me more than everyone. So like, if she looks at me with no belief, then it's going to be really hard for us to move on in life.
Mm-hmm. Maybe she should question where you're going because you're an idiot.
Sorry, you had a little fuzz on you.
Like, where's the off-ramp for the woman? She can't even question him? That's bad? But he's not a dictator? What?
I know, this is so insane. I don't think that we've reacted to a video this insane in a long time. The ones that would rival this video are definitely Mark Driscoll.
Oh, yeah.
But I think Mark Driscoll, he says things that are basically as dumb as these people are saying, but he does so in a little bit more of an eloquent way.
Yes, he does have a way with words.
He has a way with words. He has a way to make it sound all flowery.
So if the one quality that I love is that, and it's so funny, and I'm going to be super vulnerable. When I was in the beginning of this relationship, I was very emotional, and I had very bad habits from terrible relationships that I were in. And
like what kind of habits?
Like just I would take it all the shit, and then finally I would have enough of it and explode. Mm-hmm. And be like, all right, fuck this, I'm done, I'm out. And I'll just like, I'm out. And then like I'll just like, all right, this is it, I'm out. Like
instead of communicating,
just
right?
like I'm all in or I'm all out.
Yeah, like not talk about it and keep it in.
Yeah. And sometimes it's really hard to talk to your loved ones. It's hard to talk to your mom. It's hard to talk to your partner because it hurts a lot more when it comes from people you love. Mm-hmm. Hey, bro, from your best friend, right? Hey, bro, you have an anger issue. You need to chill the fuck out. Oh, yeah, you're right, dude. Like, I probably should, like, really reconsider my emotions when I'm, like, upset. But
he might be making a valid point here. I'm not sure, but I'm just gonna note that he is saying the people he can hear criticism from are men and the people he doesn't like criticism from are women. But I'll let him go on.
Yeah.
Then if your girl's like, yo, like, you're so emotional, now I feel like she thinks I'm a chick, and now I'm gonna lose my mind. So like, how?
So yeah, he can hear criticism from men, but when it comes from his girlfriend who's a woman, then no.
Well, he can hear that he's emotional, but he can't hear that he's a woman because that's even worse.
And again, it's the equating femininity and womanhood with all things that are bad.
Oh my God.
Like being overly emotional is a female trait.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than being a girl.
Not just a girl, a chick.
Does he get his entire worldview from that one scene in The Sandlot where they're like, you throw like a girl, and everyone's like, oh, shit's about to go down. Like, that was the worst insult ever. Get a life.
I also want to point this out, and again, it's not really super related to what they're talking about, but this is supposed to be an interview of Girls Gone Bible, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he's doing like 90% of the talking.
Well, I mean, like, why would you want to listen to a chick? Or just 2 chicks.
3 chicks. He has his girlfriend there. I mean, I will say that we skipped a whole section where Angela was talking about her testimony. So they were talking more in the beginning, I think. But I just find it very weird and strange and like not very professional when you're having an interview and you're supposed to be interviewing these people for your podcast, but you're doing the majority of the talking. Like, what's the point of them being there? Like, just don't interview people then. If
you got most of your audience from interviewing Andrew Tate, they're not there to listen to women speak.
Yeah. Well, I guarantee you that Andrew Tate did a lot more talking on that episode than Girls Gone Bible did on this one.
Well, right, because he's a man. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like George is the one that gets to speak if it's a woman guest because he's a man. Yeah. But if there's a man guest, then okay, we can have equal time, or they can do the normal thing on a podcast and have the guest talk more.
Right.
How you talk to somebody dictates how you're getting it, right? So she knew that, okay, this is going to be a little tough. I'm going to bring this to God. She went around me. Mm-hmm. If you're in a company and your boss ain't doing his job, you go up above him. Mm-hmm. And she went above me. She didn't go to me because I was doing a terrible job leading the relationship. Mm-hmm. And then God came to me and he was like, hey, we need to adjust this. And then he put obstacles in my way for me to deal with this, and then people to see what they're dealing with this when they get the back end of it. And now I'm like, oh, okay, so words do matter. When I came from...
So I have multiple issues with everything he just said because, one, you're equating yourself as your girlfriend's boss.
Yeah.
You're drawing an analogy there.
Right.
Which obviously is very messed up. And secondly, and this is something that I had, or both of us had a big problem with Milena Ciciotti. This is something that she said too. Mm-hmm. She gave the advice that if you're having a problem with your husband, that instead of going and talking to him about it, that you should pray instead.
Right.
And that's basically what he's saying you should do here too.
Yeah.
Which I think is just very, very harmful because you're basically advocating for no communication with your partner. Mm-hmm. And communication is so important to a relationship.
Yeah. I think they would argue, well, no, the man is being held accountable to an authority. And so there is communication on that. He's being held accountable to God. What I would want to ask is... So what kind of actual evidence do you have? What kind of research did you do? Could it be verified that her praying had a direct connection to him being convicted by God? How did that work? Do you have a recording of the guy talking? Like, did he come to you and go, George, your girlfriend's pissed off? No, no. Like, this is a story you're saying in retrospect, right? I mean... This is using a system which can be used to explain anything, to explain why it's okay for a woman to not have any real advocacy for herself in a relationship, and why the men should not be checked. You can say, they're not really, like, the men are not really put in check, but they're completely put in check at
by
the
God,
same time.
which is something that we cannot demonstrate, that you were actually put in check in the first place.
Right. Yeah. This
Yeah.
is just magic to get away with what the men want, which is no accountability.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this really isn't that different from Christian Scientists who won't take their children to the hospital when they're sick or
Ooh,
injured.
Yeah.
Instead, they say that you should just pray because God's most powerful and he'll be able to heal them and a hospital won't. I mean, this is the same type of thinking.
Yeah, and if it doesn't get better, then, well, that was God's answer.
Yeah.
You know, if your husband gets abusive,
Well,
that's kind of God's answer to
God's, yeah, God's plan.
Yeah.
From a household that they said words don't mean shit. Suck it up. Okay, where words mean something. And oh my God, if it means something and I'm talking to the person I love like this. Oh my God, how does she feel around me? Okay, I could protect her physically. No man's gonna come into this house. I'll put rounds in him. But does she feel?
He is really obsessed with the idea of having some sort of physical altercation with a stranger
Yeah.
and having to protect his girlfriend. This is definitely a male fantasy thing.
Yeah.
Safe telling me things? Did she make a mistake? Does she feel safe enough to express that to me? Have I made it like I'm a loose cannon where now she's like, oh, I can't even confide in the person that I should be? That was my fault.
Yeah, it was your fault, and you setting up a system in your relationship to where she's not allowed to come to you by the rules of the patriarchy. That's your fault. That's why
Yeah.
she's not doing it. Like,
You
Duh.
just said she should pray instead. You just said that.
like they're right there. Make these things connect, man.
A leader could fail all the time, at any moment. But what she did is she brought it to God, and God brought it to my attention. And sometimes we get caught in a situation where, like, oh, well, I told you 100 times, you're not listening. Have you brought it to God?
It's the only way.
You have to pray together to stay together.
It's so funny because whenever we talk about dating, we always bring it back to our relationship
Yeah.
as our friendship. But like, no, Ari and I both, I mean, prayer is a massive part of the biggest part of our lives. It changed our lives. We pray as if our lives depend on it, because it does. Like, it really does. Our relationships depend on it. Everything. Our relationship with God depends on our communication with him. And like, me bringing everything to God in prayer, bringing every relationship, every tension, every argument. I haven't had drama in years because I don't let it get to that point. I have the Holy Spirit intercede immediately. I ask him to bring reconciliation immediately. I ask that because there's always, we say it all the time, don't be mad at the person, be mad at the spirit behind them. That's
Okay, so I could be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure that I heard Angela say on a different, like one of the Girls Gone Bible episodes, that her and Ari get into little tiffs like all the time. So now she's saying that they never have drama.
Yeah. I mean, what irks me here is that she's drawing this connection. She's saying, "Oh, I don't have drama," which, you know, may or may not be true. And the reason for that is that I pray over my relationships. Can you demonstrate the link for me there? Because, you know, a Muslim could say that. A Buddhist could say that. A Hindu could say that. A pagan could say that. Anyone who prays, anyone who does any sort of ritual could say that. And you are providing the exact same amount of evidence that they would be able to give and have the exact same amount of credibility that you have. Like, this, it's crazy to me that people will be so unquestioning that they will hear this and be like, wow, that's evidence of this making your relationships better, when it's just a claim.
Yeah, it's just a claim.
That's it.
Yeah, and they've contradicted themselves a million times.
Yeah.
So their claim is already kind of on rocky ground.
Right.
But also what she was saying about that she doesn't get mad at the person, she gets mad at the spirit behind the person. This sounds similar to what George said on Impulsive about Hitler. Yeah, that it wasn't actually Hitler, it was like a demon behind it. And I feel like this line of thinking is incredibly dangerous because it allows abusers to never be held accountable.
Yeah.
Because they can say, oh, well, it wasn't me. I didn't say abused that child.
Yeah.
It was the evil spirit that was in me that did that.
Right. And I've said the magic words. I've gone to the service where they have delivered me. I went through the ritual. That means that I'm not that anymore. That's like, okay, you're going to need to demonstrate that and earn people's trust if you've done something like that.
Operating in them to get them to stop. That's getting them to act like
You
this.
say a lot of the bullet points that I say. And you know what's so funny? Our wisdom comes from the same source.
We move as one body.
And this is crazy to see because a lot of people are like, well, is she regurgitating what she heard from? No, bro. Like, if me and you, right, we hang out with Shauna, but we don't ever hang out.
Yeah.
But you pick up traits from Shauna, and I pick up traits from Shauna. But then when we meet, we're like attached to the hip now because we're on the same page because we have the same relationship with that person.
Yeah.
You guys belong to the same religion and probably vote the same. There's a lot of commonalities you probably have. You're also podcasters. You got a lot in common. Maybe it's
not that magical.
Yeah, maybe it's not magic. You just relate to someone. Wow.
You are who you hang out with. So when you get wisdom from our Heavenly Father and it works in our life, and this is what I think of it. If we have an endless river of spring water and we sit around people that are very thirsty, and I could just bring this cup over there, fill my cup up because I have that relationship. Why would I not come here and fill your guys' cups and then run back to the river and fill my cup up? And then this is what we're doing with our wisdom. We don't want to just keep this to ourselves. We know what it feels like to be in the situation that you're in. And it's terrible. And the reason why we want to give it to you is because ours is endless. There is no, well, if I give her some of my drink, then I'm not going to have anything for me. No. It's abundant. And I'd like to be abundantly clear.
Yeah.
Our peace and our joy come from our Heavenly Father.
You see what he did there?
Yeah, he's certainly saying words.
What pops in my head is that one scene from The Office where Michael Scott says, sometimes I start a sentence and I have no idea where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
This is this guy. He starts a sentence. I don't think he has any idea where he's going with it, but he's trying to make it sound good.
His sentence is kind of like his source of wisdom. It just keeps on going and going and going and never stops. There's no end. There's no beginning. It just is.
It's abundant, and he's abundantly clear.
Ah, yeah.
You give up your ways of life. We give up our ways of life. When people go up to me like, you really believe that Jesus died and came back from the dead? I go, I believe in the eyewitnesses that believed it so much that they got murdered for it with a smile on their face.
You have a time machine, bro?
Yeah, I have to say 9/11 was a really religiously significant event for me. I believe everything that they did. Like, are you... Dude,
well,
come
first
on.
of all, you don't believe the eyewitnesses. You have not talked to the eyewitnesses. You do not have a time machine. You can't go back 2,000 years and talk to the eyewitnesses. You believe that in a book, people wrote down that there were eyewitnesses. It's a second-hand account.
Yeah.
It's not a first-hand account.
Right. And I think that you believing that these are first-hand eyewitness accounts that you're hearing is evidence of the fact that you've probably looked into your religious texts less than we have, that probably most non-believer, not non-believers, but most atheists, I'll say, have. The vast, overwhelming majority of even Christian scholars, even people who are Catholic priests, do not believe that these were eyewitness accounts.
Yeah.
These were either secondhand, or they were invented entirely, or they were third or fourth hand accounts.
And they were also written down decades after it supposedly happened.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I this is a line that he is copying from someone else. What was the word he used? Regagitating?
Regagitating.
He's regagitating a word from, or a line from, apologists that he's heard. He doesn't actually know or understand the subject particularly well, or he wouldn't say this.
And another thing, and this I'm actually getting, I mean, it's something I knew before, but Steve from Rationality Rules recently talked about this in a video, that eyewitness accounts are known for being very untrustworthy because people often misremember events that have happened to them or can't remember the details of it. So eyewitness accounts aren't really like the evidence for your God that you think it is.
Right.
That's a huge thing. Would you ever believe a lie to your death like that, where they torture you and crucify you upside down?
people die for things that aren't true all the time.
Yeah. I mean, literally, do I have to say something about Islamic, like, extremist groups?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Have you never thought about any other religious? You know that Hindus and Buddhists were the ones that invented the whole self-immolation in the 20th century thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is a part of, like, a political protest. There are other religions, and other religions have martyrs. Actually, martyrs are a huge deal in Islam.
Yeah.
Like, have you never studied any other religion besides for this specific narrow form of Christianity?
Yeah. And people will die for things that aren't true all the time. And it's not just that they're willing to die for it. They're willing to experience brutal deaths or experience torture. This happens in a lot of different religions. It's not just Christianity where people are willing to die for their ideology.
They crucified him upside down. This guy didn't say, no, don't crucify me. I don't want to die. He said, I'm not worthy to be crucified the way that my God was crucified. Put me upside down. Put me in more pain. Bro, that gives me goosebumps. So yeah, I do believe. Because I welcomed him into my life. And then I saw him. And now I believe in him more than I believe in Reed, who stands right in front of me in flesh.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm ready to risk my career, and I'm ready to risk my relationships, and I'm ready to risk it all because I have an endless supply of joy and peace.
Funny how you don't actually have to risk your life or career at all being a Christian who looks down on other people for not being Christian. It's actually a really smart career move. Ask the people you're supposed to be interviewing.
You can never touch me.
No.
And amen to that. And if I can just put back to what you were talking about with relationships, you know, because we were talking about like relationships and like kind of start, and the way that you were vulnerable in the beginning of a relationship. I just want to say that the way that you said, you know, it's not potential, it's pattern, and like you were able to display that in our relationship, that it was like it was your pattern. Like you were able to take something and you were able to go, okay, like this isn't right, and then you were able to work on it and fix it. And a lot of people can't admit like when they're wrong, and that's the first thing that you're able to do. And I think that that's important when it comes to being like an alpha and being a leader, is that you're somebody that can go, oh, you know what, like I was wrong, and you can admit it, and then you can go back and you can fix it. And like that's your pattern, is that you can take something and you fix it every time. And I just think that was important because you were so vulnerable with what you said, and I wanted to just kind of like point out like the goodness of it.
I appreciate you saying
That's not just an important aspect that a leader should have. Not just leaders need to admit when they've done something wrong and fix it. That's just being an adult. That's being a human being, having relationships with other people.
Yeah, everybody's got to be held accountable. I mean, I guess with the amount they have basically said the system should be set up to where men are not held accountable, that they're now saying they should be held accountable. That's good, I guess. But yeah, it's not just the leader.
saying that, and the reason why it's a better way for me to just be up front, be like, hey, you know how I spoke to you was like completely out of line, or hey, you know, I understand what you were talking about, is because I know there's going to be a time where you do or say or act in a behavior where I'm like, nah, I don't like that. But how am I going to come up to you and be like, hey, could you fix this area? If when you give me something to fix about myself, I'm like, nah, bro, get out of here. It is what it is, bro. You like this life, then get out of it. You know what I mean? Like, there's an arrogance to that. But
That's the first thing that he said that's actually made sense.
Yeah.
And it comes from you seeing yourselves as equally accountable to each other.
if the best way to preach the gospel and preach a good behavior isn't by your mouth. There's a famous saying, they go preach your whole life about God, and when you need to, use words. That's powerful, bro. Because now, when my...
Okay.
I don't like that.
First, that moan was a little awkward. But I agree with him in the sense that I think being a good role model and modeling behavior through modeling your behavior through your actions is good. However, I don't necessarily agree that the best way to spread the message of the gospel is through just your actions, because that requires you communicating words and communicating the gospel itself.
The idea of what the gospel is a bit nebulous and dependent on what point they kind of want to make at the time. I'm not sure that people will be like, you know what, you're really, really nice, and I suddenly believe in a guy that I've never heard of before that died on the cross.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're really, really nice, and so that inspires me to be really nice. If that's the gospel, then sure, that makes sense, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, to me, when I hear someone say the gospel, I'm thinking Jesus' life and death and resurrection. That's the gospel to me. And so I don't know how, if somebody hasn't heard about Jesus before, which they probably don't interact with that many people that don't know who Jesus is, but how are they supposed to get that message from just like your actions if you're not ever actually talking about the story of Jesus?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Girl goes, wow, I told him one time that I didn't like that, and I watched him journal it, and every day attack that. I guarantee you, when I go, hey babe, that behavior you displayed, she goes, oh, it's already, I already knew before it left my lips that I need to adjust, because now she's like, I'm willing to dance this dance you're dancing.
Yeah.
And the dance is obedience, and the dance is respect.
Respect.
A lot of people,
Obedience
to you?
to you? I think that's what he's meaning by that.
Are you obeying her?
No.
It sounded good, but now I'm not really sure.
No. She just has to obey him, not the other way around.
Yeah.
people always ask me, they go, well, how do I get a relationship like you and Shauna? I go, get ready to serve and sacrifice.
Yes.
Serve and sacrifice, and then you'll have what everybody else wants.
Yeah.
People would think that being the head of the household and being the man and being the leader, like you're in a position of, you're in the better position. They're actually in a much, much, much worse position.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, husbands are supposed to love their wives as Christ loved the church. Christ gave his life up for the church. He gave his life up in the most brutal, unbelievable way for us. And that's the type of sacrifice that men have.
I find this interesting when I hear Christians say this, because in order to defend biblical submission, a lot of Christians will say, but the man, it's not just the woman that's sacrificing something. The man has to give his life for his wife, just as God gave his life for the church.
Yeah.
My thing with that is, how often is a husband actually having to be in a situation where he would have to give his life in order to save his wife and kids?
Yeah.
Like, never. Like,
Yeah,
that
it's probably not gonna
rarely
happen.
ever happens. But yet, a woman has to submit daily. That's like a thing that she has to do constantly. And all a man has to do is like, oh, if you just happen to be in this extremely rare situation, then you have to give your life for your wife.
Right.
As if a wife wouldn't give her life for her husband. Because I know if you were in a situation where your life was in danger and the only way to save you would be to sacrifice myself, I would do it. I'm sure a lot of wives would do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think that that's a good excuse. I don't think that it excuses the submission thing just because men have to love their wives to the point of death.
Yeah. Another way that you could interpret what they're saying here is, okay, maybe not the death part, but a man has to serve and sacrifice daily.
Well, that's what
just
she's
like
about to say, actually.
Okay.
Have to do daily. They have to die to themselves, to their desires, their wants, needs, anything that they could possibly want literally doesn't matter, because their wife and their kids and God come before that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be a man.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's saying that the man does have to, die to himself daily and serve daily and do all these things. Okay, I see that. You're saying that ideally, this leader, this man who has basically all the power, should do this. And if he's fulfilling his role very well, then it's very difficult to fulfill. The problem I still have is, regardless of how well the man fulfills the role, the woman still has no power because of the way that the system is set up. The system is not set up so that men will be better leaders. It's set up so that men will be leaders first, and then hopefully things will work out to where they end up being good leaders, but there's basically no infrastructure to actually make them good leaders or hold them accountable. If you
just kind of hope for the best.
Yeah, you put them in charge and you hope for the best. That does not make it to where the man is going to have this hard, difficult serving role. It just makes them the leader, and It's like, well, hopefully it works out.
Yeah, and I think that this is a problem that we see with a lot of Christian influencers that we react to, is that they refuse to see that this system is flawed. It's inherently flawed.
Yeah.
They keep trying to fix an inherently flawed system instead of realizing maybe this thing that we're doing is just outdated and it's not working and it's actually harmful. They just refuse to see that.
If the system doesn't work, then they blame the individual.
Yeah.
That man was not fulfilling his role correctly.
And instead of saying, maybe this system makes it super easy for bad men to do bad things.
Right.
They just refuse to see that. And also another thing that I'm thinking here is, let's just use like George and his girlfriend as an example. What exactly is he having to sacrifice daily and die to himself daily for her?
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, I don't know them, so I can't say for sure, but it doesn't seem like he's really like having to sacrifice a whole lot in order to be with her. They seem to live a pretty comfortable life. So I feel like that is just, those are just words. Those are just words that justify why it's okay for a man to be the leader, but there's actually nothing substantial or tangible to it.
Well, I mean, if he's not fulfilling that role, then, I mean, everyone's fallen. Everyone's a sinner. Just give him a break.
Exactly.
You know, it's crazy you say that, and the only thing I think about, let's bring God out of it, right? Let's talk to the atheists. Let's talk to the people that are godless. You're a leader regardless. Right? When you're in a new relationship, the girl's always wanting to please you. Mm-hmm. So she is going to move in the direction that she feels that pleases you. And you have the ability to completely make this woman filthy or bring her up to a different level of life.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I want to please you. I don't really like that word specifically because that kind of sounds like you're my lord and I'm like appeasing you or something. But I care about your happiness and I want you to enjoy life, but you want the same for me too?
Right. What did he say about women's orientation toward a man in a relationship that wouldn't apply to a man, that's oriented toward a woman in a relationship? Why is this just about a woman pleasing a man rather than a man pleasing, or a partner just pleasing a partner? It just sounds like he's describing what a good partner might want.
Yeah, both partners in the relationship, or all partners in the relationship, should want everyone else to be happy and fulfilled. That's just normal. That's like relationship 101.
Yeah, it's their gender essentialism that's driving him to say, oh, well, this is just how women are. I mean, to be honest, I would say that if there's one person that is more of a like, I have to make sure that you are happy or else I will not be happy, it's probably me toward you,
Maybe. I don't know.
You think so?
I feel like we both kind of feed off of each other's energy, which
That's
can
valid.
be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing too at sometimes.
I think sometimes you are better than I am at when I'm down, you can be like, it's okay for me to not let that affect me in a negative way, but then still come to me and help me when I need help. When you are having like a bad time, I, in not a good way, will just like not have a good time too sometimes.
And that's your choice. And sadly, even girls that are like, no, I dictate where, no, you don't. You're a liar. Mm-hmm. And if that's true, then you're most likely going to die alone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, Mark Driscoll.
What's wrong with you? Do you think that no women want to have an equal say in their relationship or be more dominant in some way in their relationship than their partner?
Well, he might say some women want to do that, but women who claim that they have an equal partnership or lead in certain areas are lying.
Or they're going to die alone.
Either that or they're going to die alone.
Can I see some like research on this, please?
I mean, obviously this is just all his opinion.
Yeah. Oh no, but it's God's opinion.
But he would think that, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, it's okay.
He would think that I'm lying about being the leader when it comes to organizational stuff in our relationship because I can't possibly lead in any area.
She's not lying, dude. Like, it's a good thing that she's doing it.
Because that's not how the world works. It never has been. We take God out of it. It just never has been. It's never been like that. When you meet someone,
there are cultures where women are leaders.
Yeah, there are matriarchal cultures. It does exist. You're just ignorant. I mean, you just don't actually know anything about anthropology.
Yeah. Patriarchal societies have been more widespread, but matriarchal societies have existed as well and still do exist.
Yeah, and egalitarian societies and groups
exist too.
It seems a lot more common before agriculture became completely dominant. We might have actually been more egalitarian rather than patriarchal for longer of our history, but I doubt that he actually believes in evolution at this point.
I would think probably no.
Yeah. Where are you getting your history from? From like Ken Ham, from Mark Driscoll?
And even if it were the case that no matriarchal cultures have ever existed, that still doesn't mean that this is the best way to do it. Just because something has like a historical precedent doesn't mean that that is the way that we should be doing it, or that's the best way.
Right.
Somebody, even the movies, the songs, you change up your vibe. You're like, oh, I want to impress this person. I want to be like this. I want to submit. I want to serve this. These are natural traits just from biology. Like, oh, I like this person. Okay, well, I know that other people like her, so I have to compete with other people. Shauna's walking around. Every single guy friend of mine was going after her. These are my friend group. What happens when she goes to Starbucks? Or she goes to any other mall, or like a, God forbid, Air One or a Whole Foods? It's over. Like, you know what I mean? Like the organic dudes with abs there. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's always some guy that's willing to compete to have the woman for himself.
Yeah.
And
I'm so confused because I thought he was talking about that there's differences between men and women, and if you're a woman who says that you lead, that you're lying. But now he's talking about what men do. I'm so lost.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's making a particularly coherent point here. I think he's trying to say that men are biologically this way and women are biologically this way, and this is how it is. It doesn't even matter whether God is telling you that it has to be this way. This is just how it is based on biology, which is actually a very, very new argument. These ideas that this is the way that it works is within our culture based on a Judeo-Christian framework. It's not based on something from before that.
Yeah, it's not based on science.
Yeah.
Also, the thing he was saying about when you meet somebody that you're interested in, that you change up your whole vibe, and that's just biologically something that we do. If you are changing up your entire personality and vibe and who you are because you're interested in somebody else and you're trying to be more appealing to them by like mirroring them, that's actually super toxic, and you should really not do that.
Yeah, you do want to be able to be, I mean, you might be a little heightened or be a little extra, but if you're changing yourself, you're peacocking, you're putting on airs in order to attract somebody rather than just being yourself.
Well, I don't think he's saying that you're peacocking. I think he's saying that you change up your vibe to match the other person.
Oh.
That's how I took what he was saying.
Huh.
Like, I don't think that when we got together that I changed up my vibe to be more appealing to you. I think I was still myself.
Yeah.
Did I care about your interests and took an interest in that myself? Yes, but I didn't like all of a sudden become interested in everything that you're interested in and like change my personality. And I think that if you are doing that to get with somebody, that's really not a good thing.
Yeah, probably not the best.
it's crazy because the what we're looking at social media is like a bunch of girls like, oh, I need a guy who has like 6 figures, 7 figures a month, and this is that. And then we see guys who are like, well, my girl, she can't have a body count of this. And then the next line is like, yeah, dude, I was smacking some hoes the other day. I'm like, whoa, what happened here? Well, hold on. So let me get this straight. You're demonstrating that you want a good girl, but acting like a filthy animal. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And then girls are like, I want a guy with this type of standard, but you're doing OnlyFans and you disregarded yourself. Listen, sweetheart, if you're not going to respect yourself, no one's going to respect you.
Yeah.
Okay, so a man having the double standard of not wanting his wife or girlfriend to have a high body count, but he has a high body count, is not analogous to a woman doing OnlyFans, but also looking for a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, sex work is real work.
Yeah. It's not inherently this bad, evil thing that means that you're not respecting yourself.
Yeah.
It's work like anything else. When you are doing wage labor, you are selling your body for a period of time in order to...
Yeah.
It's just they have this magical idea of what sex is. It's tied to your value somehow.
Yeah.
No one is.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to be a man and serve for your home, somebody's either going to take your home from you or build a home with your woman that God planned for you, bro. And there's nothing worse than that. Nothing's worse than watching the person that you loved walk away. And you know what the craziest part?
Notice his language there. He's saying if you as a man don't do what you're supposed to do, someone's going to come in and take your woman as though she's property.
Yeah.
His language is possessive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole system he's described is that, so it fits perfectly.
Part is, I just said this in the last episode. The devil can't take what God gave you. But how many times have we watched people get rid of something that God gave them because they believed in some crazy lie?
Yeah.
And now you're at the club with your friends, getting older and older, getting sadder and sadder. And nothing breaks my heart watching men and women age. And I'm watching their decisions just eat them alive in front of me.
This is basically the end of it that I wanted us to react to. This was a lot. I feel like actually really tired after listening to all of that because so much of it is just insane, batshit crazy.
Rapid fire contradictions.
Yeah. My final thoughts here. I do think, kind of like you were saying, I think this whole thing is just a way for them to play word games to justify why it's okay for men to be in positions of power and leadership and why women should be in servitude to them.
Yeah.
I think they're just coming up with all these different excuses and arguments and caveats and sometimes contradicting themselves because they're just trying to uphold this idea the best way they possibly can.
Yeah. They don't want to piss off people who are amenable to certain feminist ideas, which are just commonplace now.
Yeah.
But they also want to uphold patriarchy at the same time.
They want to uphold patriarchy, but they just want to water it down enough so that it doesn't scare anybody.
So that it's palatable, yeah.
Yeah. But still, what they're saying is extremely harmful and extremely problematic, which is why I thought it would be really, really important for us to talk about this video, because it honestly was like the things that they were saying. I'm like, this is like Mark Driscoll level of just, wow, this is so horrible and harmful. And I felt like we needed to definitely like counter what they're saying.
It's wild to have grown up in the independent fundamental Baptist church, which people outside of it are like, oh, it's a cult. And then I get outside of it and I hear people on giant podcast saying things that are just as bad, just as patriarchal, just as toxic, just as contradictory and stupid.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's like men come up with nonsensical ideologies to back up the nonsensical idea that they deserve everything for nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also think it's really interesting because it is a lot of the things, like I didn't hear this level of stuff when I was in the church, but this is similar to stuff that you heard growing up. But I obviously knew about it and heard some of it sometimes. But it's weird to hear it through the lens of like influencers and kind of manosphere speak. It's like combining these two worlds of Christian fundamentalism with like the manosphere. So instead of using words like the man is a spiritual leader, they'll say the man is the alpha. And it's so bizarre.
It's just as woo-woo though. It's not
very
any different.
woo-woo, yeah.
You know what really gets me down about the popularity of this podcast in particular is that after this has come out, I'm sure that there are young men and young women from, Girls Gone Bible's audience that are out here just regagitating all of this stuff all over the place.
I want to be abundantly clear that I am done filming for this day. I can't do this anymore. Again, thanks so much to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Please check out the link in the description box below or the pinned comment and use my code ANTIBOT to get an exclusive deal from Surfshark and 3 extra months free. Thanks so much for watching, and a huge thank you to my patrons who help make these videos possible. If you like this video, please be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. If you'd like to follow me on social media, my Instagram is Taylor_the_antibot. If you'd like to consider supporting this channel financially, a link to my Patreon will be down in the description, and we'll see you on the next one. Say bye.